Welcome back to class. Today we want to look at sorts of numbers. Now, there are some numbers we do call sorts, which was referred to irrational numbers maybe years back. Although we have rational numbers, we have irrational numbers. Rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed as a ratio of two integers, while irrational numbers are numbers that can't be expressed as ratio of two integers. Example of irrational numbers are surds. Now the surds we are going to be looking at are just square roots of numbers that are not perfect squares. For example, the square root of 2. 2 is not the perfect square of any number. Square root of 3. Square root of 5. Now the square root of 4 is not among surds. The reason is because 4 is a perfect square of 2. If you square 2, you are going to have 4. So because of that, you can find the square root of 4 and the answer will be 2. So this is not a surd. So that's why I skipped that. We have square root of 6, square root of 7, square root of 8, square root of 10. Now the square root of 9 is not also a surd. Why? Because if you take the square root of 9, you are going to have 3 because 9 is a perfect square. 4 is a perfect square. So you're going to be looking at square roots as surds. So just take note of this. This surd we are talking about has two parts, the real part and the irrational part. Now this irrational part is the part that has the square root of a number that is not a perfect square. That is the irrational part we are actually saying. Or the root you cannot simplify to a whole number. So let's look at the rules we use in this sorts. Look at the rules we use in this sort. Now before we look at those rules, there's something we want to quickly do: how to simplify a sort. Or okay, let's look at the rules first. Look at the rules, then we'll look at how to simplify a sort. Now rule 1, the first rule in sort is that, let's see, if you have the square root of a number times the square root of another number, the answer will be the square root of the two numbers multiplying each other. Valid. If it is multiplication, for example, if you have root 2 times root 3, the answer becomes root 2 times 3. That's what I'm trying to say. So you just multiply the sort and enclose everything with just one root. Then root 2, the second rule is that if you have a number, the square root of a number is sort multiplying another sort that's not the same. Now we have done multiplication, let's do division now. Dividing another sort, let's say root b, you are free to enclose everything with the same root. Then pick the numbers out, just like that. For example, now let's say we have root 6 divided by root 2. The answer becomes root 6 divided by 2. That's what I'm trying to say. So division, that will also work. So now what about if you have something like this? Root a plus or minus root b. This can help be further simplified. This stuff here cannot be what? Further simplified. So this one is not equal to root a plus or minus b. It is not equal. So this is not possible. Take note of that. This one is not possible. Then which one is not possible again? Look at it. If I have root a plus root a, this is possible. If both sorts are not the same, it's not possible. But if both sorts are the same, it's possible to add. The thing will become 2 of root a. That's what we're going to have. We have one root a here, we have another one here. If you add it together, you're going to have 2 of them. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, what about if we have something like this? If we have something like this, root A times, we have already done root A times root B. We got this. Now let's try it when the two surds are not the same. Root A times root A. What will be the answer to that? The answer becomes A. The surd will disappear. So if we have root 2 times root 2, the answer will become 2. If you have root 6 times root 6, the answer will become 6. That's what I'm trying to say. Then if you have root 2 plus root 2, the answer becomes, from here, 2 of them. That will be 2 of root 2. That's what I'm trying to say. So please, you take note of that. It's very, very important. So now let's look at how to okay, let's just look at one more law. Let's see if you have A times root B, what will be the answer? If you have A times root B, that will be A root B. Just take it like that, A root B. That will be the answer to that. So please, for example, let's say we have 2 times root 3. The answer becomes 2 root 3. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you have a number multiplying a surd, the answer will be that number and that surd. You just write it like that. Now let's look at some ways of evaluating surd. So therefore, let's look at how to simplify a surd. Now look at it. Let's simplify root 12. Okay, let me start from root 8. Simplify the square root of 8. Let's simplify the square root of 8. Now look how to simplify a surd. If you have to simplify a surd, what you do, you will check the number inside the roots, square roots. Then you will check 2 numbers that you are going to multiply, and the answer become that number, in which one of the number will become, it must be a perfect square. That's how to simplify a surd. So the 2 numbers we are going to multiply to give us 8 are 2 times 4, 8. Is there another one? 1 times 8 is also 8. But that 1 times 8 will not work. So if we look at 2 times 8, 2 times 4, that will give us 8. It's called that 4 is a perfect square. So that will work out. So we are going to use 2 times 4 as 8. So we just use 2 times 4. That will give us. Remember, we said if you have root A times B, the same thing as root A times root B. Remember that from first law, root A times root B is equal to root A times B. So with that now, we can move on to separate these 2 numbers now we just formed. So that will be root 2 times root 4, which is equal to root 2 times root 4 is equal to 2. So root 2 times 2, what I'm going to have? Remember I told you A times root B is equals to A root B. I don't know if you can still remember that. A number times a surd will be that number, that surd. So 2 times root 2 will be equal to 2 root 2. So that's what we're going to have as the square root of 8. Now let's look at to simplify root 12. 2 numbers are going to multiply. The answer will be 12, in which one of the number will be a perfect square. Let's look at that. So which number is that? We have 3 times 4, 12. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. But 2 is not the perfect square. 6 is not the perfect square. So that will not work. The 2 numbers must be that in instance that one of the numbers will be a perfect square. Perfect square means an answer you are going to get when you square a number. That's a perfect square. For example, now, like 4 now is an answer if we square 2. 9 is an answer if we square 3. So all these ones now are perfect squares. If we square a number, we are going to have them as answers. So let's go times 4. That will give us root 3 times root 4, which is equals to 3. That is root 3 times root 4 is equal to 2, and that will give us root 3 times 2, that is 2 root 3. That's the answer to that. So this is how you simplify a SOD. You can look for more questions, then you simplify. Okay, let's just look at one more. All right, let's see. We have root 50. I want to simplify this. It's going to give us root 25 times 2. Why? Because 25 is a perfect square of 5. So that will give us root 25 times root 2. That will give us what? 5 times root 2, because root 25 is 5. That will be 5 root 2. So this is how we simplify a SOD. Now let's go how to add and subtract SODs. Let's say we want to do this. One plus root 3 plus 2 plus root 3. What will be the answer? First thing, you put the bracket. There is nothing behind each bracket. We assume it to be 1. Assume there's 1 here. There's nothing here. We assume it to be 1. So the next thing you're going to do now is just to, if you multiply anything with 1, it remains the same. So just remove the bracket. See, there is nothing behind the bracket. So you're going to have 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3. The next thing, we'll add the real part to the real part, then the irrational part to the rational part. So we're going to have 1 plus 2 plus root 3 plus root 3. Then the next thing now, remember we said root a plus root a will give us 2 root a. Remember that. If they're the same thing, you just count them. Just say, okay, we have so number. Let's say we have 1, 2, we have 1 root a, 2 root a, 3. If we can just count. That's what you just do. If they are the same, so 1 plus 2, that's 3 already. Plus, we have this one 1, we have this one 2. We have 2 of them there. Just count them. We have 2. So just you have 2 root 3 in that place. That will become the final answer. Because we cannot add SOD to real numbers. It's not possible. So the final answer will be that. So this is the answer to this particular question. Now let's look at another one. Let's say we have 2 minus root 2 plus 3 root 3 plus 2 bracket 1 plus root 2 minus bracket 1. Okay, the thing is getting too long, so let's just solve this. Let's solve this one. The first thing, if you check, there's nothing behind that bracket, so we are going to be 1. If 1 multiplies anything, it remains the same, so that will be 2 minus root 2. Then plus, there's nothing, there's no bracket here, just leave it, 3 root 3 plus, then we have 2 here beside this bracket, so we're going to use this 2 to multiply 1, also use it to multiply root 2 to just open the bracket. So 2 times 1, we're going to have 2. 2 times root 2, we're going to have 2 root 2. So the next thing now, we're going to add SOD to SOD, real to real. So we're going to have 2, because we have this 3, we also have this 3 here, plus, because this one is plus 2. 2. There's another real number there. Then we have minus root 2. There's another root 2 here. Look at it here. 2 root 2 plus 2 root 2. Then plus 3 root 3. And also, okay, how am I not going to add this now? Just wait. 2 plus 2, that's 4. And look at this. Minus root 2 plus 2 root 2. It means you were owing 1 root 2. Then you're not going to go and get 2 of root 2. Now if you're owing 1 and you want to go and get 2, how many are you not going to be having? You use 1 to pay the one you were owing, you will have 1 left. That's how that one works. So just like minus 1 plus 2, that will be just 1. Just like minus 1 plus 2, that will be 1. So we're going to have 1 root 2 left there. So minus 1 root 2 plus root 2 will give us just plus 1 root 2. Only 1 will be left out because minus 1 plus 2 is 1. So just don't put the 1 like this. No, just leave it like that. Then plus 3 root 3. Now somebody will say, okay, what if we add this to this? It's not possible. Why? Because root 3 is different from root 2. So we cannot add. You can only add source together if they are the same. Take note of that. So automatically, this becomes the answer to the question. So let's just look at one more. Now let's say we have 3 plus root 5 minus root 5 minus 3 bracket 3 minus 5. So let's see how we are going to do this. The first thing, let's open the bracket. Check, there's nothing here. So there's going to be 1. So if 1 multiply everything here, remain the same. That is 3 plus root 5. Then we have minus root 5. But there's no bracket with this. Minus root 5. Then we are going to use this 3 to multiply this, just to open the bracket, also multiply this other one. So minus 3 times 3, that is minus 9. Minus times minus, that will be plus. This minus times this minus will give us plus. Take note. Minus times minus is plus. Minus times plus is minus. Minus, okay, plus times minus will also be minus. Plus times plus will now be plus. So if the signs are the same, to become plus. If they are not the same, to become minus. Take note of that. Is very, 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 very important. Now, if you multiply that minus outside, that 3, with that minus inside beside that root 5, it's going to give us plus. Then 3 times root 5 will give us 3 root 5. The next, we add source to source, root to root. We're going to have 3. Then this minus 9. Then have plus root 5 minus root 5 plus 3 root 5. Then we're going to have 3 minus 9 is minus 6. Then root 5 minus root 5, 0. This root 5 minus root 5, that's 0. Then plus another 3 root 5, that will be plus 3 root 5. That's what the good we have. So let's look at how to multiply a surd now. Look at how to multiply a surd. Now, to multiply a surd, we use the principle of expansion as follows. Let's assume we have the surd a plus root b multiplying, this one means multiplying, there's no sign there. If you have 2 brackets like this, it means they are multiplying each other. Multiplying c plus root d. Look at how you are going to multiply this. It's going to be this first one here, multiplying everything in this bracket, everything. Then the same second one, multiplying everything again. That's what I'm going to do. You take this first one, which is a, it will multiply everything in this bracket, which is c plus root d. Then you take this second one, which is, then be careful with this sign, because this sign will still follow that second one. So what we have here is plus b, root b. Just to pick this plus root b, and we still multiply the same bracket, which is this one here, c plus root d. So if you multiply now, you're going to have a times this, we're going to have ac, a times this, we're going to have plus a root d, root b times this, we're going to have plus c root b, plus c root b. Root b times this one, we're going to have plus root. Remember, root b times root d will be 1 square root, then you multiply the 2, which is b times d is bd, it will be d. This one is from root 1 that we did. So this is what you're going to have. Now let's look at a particular question now. Let's say we want to multiply this 5. Let's say multiply 5 root 3. That's 5 plus root 3 and 1 plus root 3. Let's say we want to multiply these two things now. I want to multiply 5 plus root 3 and 1 plus root 3. So how are we going to do this now? How we do this? Remember, this 5, we multiply everything first. 1 plus 3. Then this plus root 3. We also multiply everything again. 1 plus root 3. The next you open bracket, 5 times 1, that is 5. That's 5. 5 times root 3, that is 5 root 3. That's 5 root 3. Then root 3 times 1, that is 1 root 3, which is simply as root 3. Root 3 times root 3, look at this, root 3 times root 3 will be what? 3, since they are the same thing. If they are the same and we are multiplying, the sort will cancel out. Remember, root a times root a is equals to a. So don't forget that. It's very, very, very important to note that. So the same way, if we do root 3 times root 3 to become 3. So next thing now, we're going to have 5 plus 3. We just add to solve it to be plus root, okay, 5 root 3 plus 1 root 3 is the same thing as root 3. So that gives us 5 plus 3 is 8 plus 5 root 3 plus 1 root 3. So 5 plus 1 will give us 6, then of root 3. The answer will become 8 plus 6 root 3. The answer will become 8 plus 6 root 3. Or you will just check what is common between this 8 and that 6. Because both of them are whole numbers. What is common is 2. You can just move out that 2. Then you divide this 8 by 2. You just factor out 2. Because 2 is common between 8 and 6. This can be the answer. Or maybe they now factor out common terms that between. What can divide 6 and 8 is 2. Divide 8 by 2 will give us 4. Divide 6 by 2 will give us 3. 3. So it can also be like this. So the answer can take this shape. 2 bracket 4 plus 3 root 3. So that's how it is done. This is the procedure for multiplying a surd. So let's do one more. To multiply to multiply 1 plus root 2 and 1 minus root 2. Let's multiply this. Multiply this by this. Let's do that to see what we're going to have. So remember the first thing, this one multiply everything here. So let's go. That'll be 1 times 1 minus root 2. Then you can take that plus root 2 again, plus root 2. If it is minus root 2, you still be minus root 2 here. This sign is very, very important. It must be with this second one. Very, very important. Plus root 2 times 1 minus root 2. So open the bracket, 1 times 1, that is 1. 1 times minus root 2, that's minus root 2. The next thing is root 2 times 1, that is plus root 2, minus times plus. Okay, that is plus times minus will give us minus. You can still remember that. Plus times minus will give us minus. Then root 2 times root 2 will give us 2. So we are going to have this 1 here. Then we take this minus 2. We'll take minus root 2, which is 1. We'll take this one. We are just rearranging that we can add sod to sod and read to read. So we're going to have 1 minus 2, that is minus 1, minus root 2 plus root 2. See, minus root 2 plus root 2 is 0 because both of them have the same thing. Just like root 2 minus root 2, that will be 0. So the answer becomes minus 1. So take note of that. It's still very, very important. Now let's look at how to divide a sod. Now, if we want to divide a sod, we use the principle of rationalization. That's what we use. The principle of what? Rationalization. What's the meaning of rationalization? It means we should multiply the numerator of the sod and the denominator, because we are looking at division. You have numerator and denominator. Let's say something like this: a plus root b divided by c plus root d. That's what they are looking at here. So what I'm telling you now, if you want to divide a sod of this nature, what you do, you rationalize it. How do you rationalize a sod? You just multiply this upper side, that is the numerator, and the downside, that is the denominator, by the conjugate of anything in the denominator. Take note of that. Wow, what is the meaning of conjugate of a sod? Conjugate of a sod means the sod that will multiply that particular sod to move it to a rational number. That's just the idea of conjugate. Something that will multiply this sod and the answer will now become a rational number. It will remove all the sods there. That's one thing about conjugate. And again, some textbook will just say conjugate means when you change this sign joining these two parts. That is conjugate. For example, now, if I ask you now, what is the conjugate of C plus D, root D? We just say the conjugate will be C. You just change this sign. If it's plus before, you change it to minus. If it's minus, you change it to plus. Minus root D. That becomes the conjugate. If you have A plus root B, the conjugate becomes A minus root B. If you have A minus root B, the conjugate becomes A plus root B. You just change sign, joining the two. That's how the thing is. Now, what about if you have root A plus root B? The conjugate becomes root A minus root B. So it is lovely to change the center signs. You can see what I'm doing now. I'll just change one, minus, change minus, plus, change plus, minus. I just have to get the conjugate. That's the simplest way to get conjugate. Although there are some complex ones, in the sense that at the end of the day, some stuff will not be well arranged. We'll get there. So let's take the conjugate of this denominator now. The conjugate of this one now will becomes what? C minus root D. Just change the sign, change the two. Then what the conjugate of this other one? C. No, we don't multiply the upper side by the conjugate of the upper side. No. What we do, we multiply both the up and down by the conjugate of the downside only. That's what we call, that's how we rationalize. That's how we rationalize. Then we are going to have the same thing here, C minus root D. So if you multiply this now, multiply this and this, multiply this and this, the sod in the denominator will disappear at the end of the day. So let's look at a typical example. So remember, conjugate means when you change the sign joining the two parts. But what about if you have something like this? Let's say we are having something of this nature. Let's say we just have root A. You say, what is the conjugate of this root A? The conjugate of this one will just be minus root A, because root A is the same thing as 0 plus root A. So if you change this one now from plus to minus, you're going to have minus root A, or 0 minus root A. That is how it is. So take note of that. It's very, very important. So if they ask you, what is the conjugate of, let's see, what is the conjugate of root 3? The conjugate will be what? Minus root 3. Simple as ABCD. Then what about if they ask something like this? What is the conjugate of root B plus A? Something like this. Or root B minus A. Ask what is the conjugate of this. Now, the best way, although some textbook will write the conjugate this way. You see, the conjugate is just root B plus A by changing this sign. Because if you still multiply the two, the sod will still disappear at the end of the day. So the rationalization will still work. But the issue is that some textbook will not allow this. So you will just look at how your textbook is doing their conjugate regarding this particular one, in which the sod will come first before the whole number. But I will advise you, I will just give an advice that it will be lovely if you want to write the conjugate of something of this nature, you just rearrange by writing this real number first, something like this. Therefore, write it like this: minus A, this one is plus root B. For you now find conjugate, and the conjugate will be minus A minus root B. So this should be the best way to get this conjugate. Make sure the real number is coming first. Yeah, follow it that way, so that everything will be nice. So if I ask you now, what is the conjugate of something like this? Let's say the conjugate of root 6 minus 3. What are you going to tell me is conjugate B? Its conjugate will be, the conjugate is going to be, first thing, rearrange. We're going to have minus root 3. Then this root 6 is positive plus root 6, because there's no sign here. It means it's positive. Then if you want to find the conjugate now, change this sign. That will be minus 3 minus root 6. That's what you're going to have. Minus 3 minus what? Root 6. And you can even check this minus and this minus. They are something like you can factor them out, because they are now, you have two minus. They can just move the minus outside. Then you now have move this minus and this minus outside. There will not be minus again. If you remove this minus, what will be left there will be plus root 6. It's still same thing as this minus 3. Look at it too. Minus 3 plus root 6. If you still put the bracket with minus, if you still give it this back. So that will be very lovely to do. So ensure you just try your best to rearrange, if you have something like that, before you start looking for the conjugate. So they ask you now, let's say lastly under this conjugate, let's say we have root 2 plus 1. What we say the conjugate is, first thing, rearrange. That is 1 plus root 2. The conjugate will be 1 minus what? Root 2. Then if they give you root 3 plus root 2, conjugate will just be directly root 3 minus root 2. You only arrange when you have something like this, when the sod is coming first. You write it so that the real number will come first. So that's just it. So let's look at just example on how to divide the sod now. Now let's say we want to evaluate this sod. 1 plus root 2 over 1 minus root 2. Because we want to evaluate this surd. To do this, remember I told you the first step is to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the what? The conjugate of the denominator. So what is the conjugate of 1 minus root 2? The conjugate will be what? 1 plus root 2. So just multiply this one by 1 plus root 2. So multiply this one with what? 1 plus root 2. That's all. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's go to get the stuff now. So I'm going to multiply this upper side with 1 plus root 2. Just multiply this down side with what? 1 plus root 2. Now, why are we multiplying with 1 plus root 2? Because that is the conjugate of this. It's not because we have it in the numerator. No. That's just a skin error or something like an incident. An accident. So it's not always going to be like that. So let's just multiply. Let's multiply. So if I use this one to multiply everything, or you just do it directly. Let's just do it directly so that you don't waste time. Or you can multiply it like how we have been doing since. Okay, let me just follow the same procedure. Or you can just say 1 times this. 1 times 1. That is 1. The same 1 times this other one. That will be root 2. Then again plus root 2 times. Okay, let me just do it so that it will not be rough. Let me just do it the way we have been doing it. 1 will multiply everything first. So we're going to have 1 times 1 plus root 2. Then this will multiply everything again. Plus root 2 times 1 plus root 2. Then over 1 multiply everything again. I'm going to have 1 times 1 plus root 2. Then minus root 2 we multiply everything now. Minus root 2 times that 1 plus root 2. So this one is more better. So we're going to have 1 multiplying everything remains the same. 1 plus root 2. Then root 2 times 1, that is plus root 2 again. Root 2 times root 2, that will give us 2 over 1 multiplying everything remains the same. 1 plus root 2. Minus root 2 times 1, that will give us minus root 2. Minus times plus, that is minus times plus will give us minus. Root 2 times root 2 will give us 2. Then we go have 1 plus 2, that is 3. Root 2 plus root 2, that will give us 2 of root 2. We should do that now. Divided by 1 minus 2, that is minus 1. Then root 2 minus root 2, that is 0. That is what? 0. So the final answer is going to be 3. Okay, the final answer is just going to be, since the other part will give us 0, so this denominator will just be minus 1. So this will amount to 0. So divide some by minus 1, divide everything here with minus 1. This minus 1 will just change this and this to negative. That's just the thing we just do. So we are going to have minus 3 minus 2 root 2. That's the first answer. Then another answer will be, if you factor out this minus, that will be minus outside 3 plus 2 root 2. Take note, if you factor out minus from minus, it will change to plus. If you factor out minus from plus, it will remain as minus. So taking note of that is very, very important. What I'm just saying now, I'm talking about you remove this minus outside. You know 1 over minus 1 is still minus. So that's how the thing is. So that you're going to see the answer this way as minus 3 minus 2 root 2, or you see it the other way round. So that's what I'm trying to say. Look at it. So that you're going to see it like this. Minus 3, because minus 3 divided by minus 1 will give us minus. That is 3 divided by minus 1 give us minus 3. Then this divided by this same minus 1 give us minus 2. So I'm telling you that these two minus are something like common. You can move them outside. You can move the minus outside. Then there will not be minus with the 3 again. And there will be minus with the 2 again. So if there's no minus there again, it is plus, there's none left. 2 root 2. Don't say where is the plus coming from. That's how it is, because if you multiply minus and plus, it will give you minus. So that's why only this minus is active there. The plus is actually latent. Or if you remove minus, for example, you factor out minus from where you already have minus, plus will be the one left there. Now before we go, let's look at just one more example. Now we have to divide 1 plus. We have to divide 1 plus 3 by 5 plus 3. Look at what I'm trying to say. To divide 1 plus 3 by 5 plus 3. That's what I have to do now. So the first thing we are going to do now, what is the conjugate of the denominator? What is the conjugate of 5 plus 3? Conjugate is 5 minus root what? Root 3. 5 minus root 3. That's the conjugate. So the next thing is, use that conjugate to multiply this denominator, and you also use it to multiply the numerator, both sides. So we use 5 minus root 3 to multiply this. We also use 5 minus root 3 to multiply this. So we're going to have, first thing, 1 will multiply everything here now, be. So 1 will multiply everything, then this one multiply everything again. The same thing to the denominator. So we're going to have 1 times 5 minus root 3, then plus root 3 times 5 minus root 3, over, then 5 multiplies everything, then this multiply everything again. So we're going to have 5 times 5 minus root 3 plus root 3 times 5 minus root 3. So now let's open the bracket now. 1 multiply everything, it remains the same. So that part is going to give us 5 minus root 3. Then root 3 times 5, that gives us plus 5 root 3. Then minus times, that is plus times minus, will give us minus. Then root 3 times root 3 will give us 3. Take note of that too. The root will cancel out. Then divided by 5 times 5, that's 25. 5 times, that's minus 5 root 3. That's root 3 times 5, that's plus 5 3. That's plus times minus will give us minus. Then root 3 times root 3 will give us 3. Don't forget that. Then the next thing we're going to have now will be, let's just simplify everything without any further delay. 5 minus 3, that will give us 2. Minus root 3 plus 5 root 3. You are owing 1 root 3. Then you're now going to go and collect 5. You are owing 1. You want to go and collect 5. If you use 1 to pay the one you are owing, how much will you now be having? Be having plus 4 left. So minus 1 plus 5 is plus 4. 3. Then over 25 minus 3. That is 22. Then minus 5. Okay, let me just cancel so that you see it very well. Okay, I will cancel everything. 5 that's 2. Then minus root 3 plus 5 root 3, that will give us plus 4 root 3. Then over 25 minus 3, that is 22. Minus 5 plus 5, that will give us 0. So that is the major reason why we are able finding the conjugate, so that the solid denominator will just disappear at the end of the day. So there's nothing to put that 0, don't forget about the 0. So the answer will just be 22. So the next thing is called that between here, here, and here, 2 is common. 2 can divide everything there. So just divide everything by 2. 2 here 1, 2 here 2, 2 here 11. So we're going to have 1 plus 2 root 3 divided by what? 11. Everything divided by 11. That will be the final answer. 1 plus 2 root 3 divided by 11. Look at what I'm trying to say. Remember the procedures. First thing, find the conjugate of the denominator. You need to multiply both sides. Multiply this side and this side. After you multiply them, you have this. Then you add up sword to sword, reed to reed. Then you get the final answer. It's as simple as that. So now let's look at just brief revision of what we have done. Remember the last answer we got was 1 plus what? 2, 3 over 11. So taking note of that is very, very important. So some persons will write like this: 1 over 11 plus 2 root 3 over 11. Some people can write it like this. It's still correct. So remember, for conjugate, if you have A plus root B, the conjugate will become A minus root B. If you have A minus root B, the conjugate will be A plus root B. If you have root A plus root B, the conjugate will be root A minus root B. Then if you have A, okay, let's say you have root B plus A, the conjugate will be, first of all, you rearrange. That will be A plus root B. Then the conjugate will become A minus what? Root B. If you also have, let's say, root B minus A, okay, let's say you have root B minus A. Root B minus A. The first thing you do is to rearrange it. That will be minus A. Since there's no sign with this B, it has a positive sign. Anything that has sign is positive. So plus root B. So you find the conjugate now. This is just rearrangement too. Therefore, just rearrange it again. Then you now change this central sign. That will be minus A minus root B. Then let's say you have minus root A minus A minus root B. I say, what is the conjugate of this? It's T minus A. Just change the sign. Plus root B. We have minus root A minus root B. Conjugate will be, just change the center sign, minus root A. That is minus root A plus root B, and so on. Also know how to add sword and the rest, swords and the rest. Thank you. Please don't forget to like this video. In most cases, I don't remember to tell students to subscribe to the channel. Please try and subscribe. It will help a lot. Help this video to go viral to other persons.
And also try and like. When I'm just teaching, I'm just trying my best to ensure you understand it. That's why I don't remember to mention the subscribe, likes, and the rest. So please just try and like the video and share it to others. Then you subscribe to this channel. It's free. Everything is free. You don't use money for them. So please just ensure you do that for us. God bless you.